It's an odd question, I know. But what would you do if you walked past an abandoned building on your way home from work? I wonder how many of you sitting here would be curious enough to want to venture inside, and how many of you would simply cross the road to avoid it altogether. For the past 3 years, I have been exploring Hong Kong's forgotten places. I often slip, unwelcomed, into hostile spaces. Why is being out of my comfort zone so delicious? What is so fascinating about these places? I mean, they're just abandoned buildings, right? My new passion, called urban exploring, or urbex for short, is a pursuit that delves into the intricate relationship between human psychology, fear, and the allure of reward. I often feel like that curious character, Alice in Wonderland, who ventured into the bewildering unknown. I would like to ask you all to close your eyes, please. I want you to imagine yourself walking through a dimly lit, abandoned house. The air is a suffocating scent of damp and decay. In the corner of a patinaed, furniture-filled room, you see a dusty old suitcase. Your hands gravitate towards it. Can you feel your heart race as you think about what could be inside? What do you do? Will you open that suitcase? Open your eyes. Like Alice, I am wide-eyed as I open that suitcase to reveal wads of cash, old passports, faded photos, and heirloom jewelry. It was then that I realized that maybe I had stumbled onto some tragic secret. What do you think happened to that family? Why didn't they take their passports? But more importantly, why did they leave behind their precious family photos? After exploring that vast, lifeless home, I leave taking only photos as dictated by the rules of urban exploring. In a bamboo forest sits yet another abandoned house, where I discovered a handmade wedding dress along with the owner's possessions. It was sad to see the dress in that untouched state that once would have been a symbol of her dreams and aspirations, now waiting for her return. It can be very emotional exploring abandoned places, especially when they are full of personal belongings. So, I quietly leave her house, once again taking only photos, but with many questions, but with no one to ask. Urban exploring can be potentially dangerous. Risks include encountering venomous snakes, wild dogs, walking into hornet nests, and navigating unsafe structures. Yet, even in the face of these fears, what drives me forward are the things that I find in these unloved sites. Fear is physical. It's not confined to the mind. It shows up as physical changes in our body. Just like when I opened that suitcase in that tragic house, my heart was pounding, I felt nauseous, and my legs wobbly. Fear is processed in the amygdala, an almond-shaped region within the brain that basically shows how emotions are processed. It also controls our fight, flight, and freeze response. Fear can also cloud our cognitive abilities, making us disorientated, just like when I get lost in a maze of corridors and can't fathom out which way to go. However, fear can transform into pleasure. Neuroscience tells us that in fear-inducing experiences, the brain produces more dopamine. Could this be why urban exploring is so addictive? I have visited over 400 abandoned sites in Hong Kong. Each site is a microcosm of history and human emotion, such as old cinemas, long-forgotten churches, schools, all lavish with mementos of the past. Finding faded family photos, school report cards, letters from Her Majesty's service are pretty standard gems. When I explore these sites, my senses become highly attuned. My eyesight becomes super sharp. My sense of smell, off the charts. But my hearing in particular becomes so sensitive that I can hear even the faintest of sounds, such as the patter of tiny rodent feet scampering amongst the furniture. This heightened state of physical and mental focus, fueled by fear, rewarded in dopamine, definitely makes the thrill of exploring the mysterious world of abandoned buildings even harder to resist. So, after 3 years of adventurous urban exploring, what have I really learnt? Well, it turns out quite a bit. It's like I followed in the footsteps of Alice herself, curious and fearless in the face of the unknown. My journey into abandoned buildings has not only revealed hidden treasures within, but it has also inspired my own creativity. After venturing through Hong Kong's forgotten spaces, I came to appreciate the cultural nuances embedded in the architecture. So, I decided to launch a project with the help of the urban exploring community, gathering images of vintage tile and wallpaper designs to digitalize for preservation. This unconventional passion, called urban exploring, became a journey of self-discovery. Curiosity has always been the driving force behind my love of exploring. It is like it has illuminated a path towards self-growth and empowerment. So, I hand it over to you. How can you manifest that inner curiosity into an inspirational journey of self-discovery and growth? What untapped reservoirs of creativity and resilience await you? Whether it's exploring abandoned buildings like myself or an entirely different frontier. Thank you.